Okay. So this is podcast team research team A, and I'm Alex, and I'm with.
Princess?
Arissa.
Francisco.
Jose.
Elida.
So for who am I? For me, I was born here in California. I've never lived outside of California, but I have traveled a lot. Most of my life, I grew up going to Mexico every year to visit my great grandparents. Um, we weren't very well off when I was younger, so we lived in a trailer park, and it was filled with a lot of undocumented Mexicans and people who were working just to send money back to their homes and to their families. So most of my childhood, I personally didn't experience too much oppression, not that I realized, because I was still a kid, so I wasn't really focused on that, but I did see and notice how the people around me were being oppressed and how they were getting jobs that they didn't like and jobs that they were pretty much forced to do to earn money that they couldn't even spend themselves, that they had to send back to their families back home. And most weekends we would end up going to my grandparents' house from my dad's side, and we'd just hang out and eat like tamales and carne asada and enchiladas. I was a bit pickier with food, so my mom always had to make something else for me rather than me eating with everyone else. And my dad was born here in California, and my mom was born in Mexico, but she was able to get a green card and cross over when she was around 13, and she started attending high school here, which is how my dad met her. My dad was born here, but raised in Mexico for most of his life, from 1 years old to about 15 when he moved back, and him and my mom met, and eventually my mom would want to get her citizenship, and my dad would help her study with that as well. What about you, Princess?
Well, I grew up in Oxnard, California, and my childhood was pretty full of adventures since I grew up with most of my cousins around me, and my mom's family all lived together in a house. It was a bit crowded, but it worked out. My mom and her family raised me, and she worked very hard to be able to provide me with a good childhood where I never lacked anything because I had everything thanks to her. And growing up, we would go a lot to Disneyland or Universal Studios, since we were not too far away. And we would do a lot of activities. We would go to Mexico and then for Christmas, and we would make buñuelos or tamales, and the whole family would get together to help out. And for Easter, we would go to parks and we would do a lot of family activities. Um, Foods that I ate were mostly Hispanic since I grew up with that. We would make pozole or menudo, um, frijoles, nopales, and then also like pizza, burgers, and other stuff. Um, my family had a garden. We had like raspberries or guayabas and other sorts of fruits. And when we planted those, my grandma would say like to talk nice to the plants so that they would grow good. And then when picking the fruit, my grandpa and my Nino would help because they worked in the field. So they would show us to be gentle so we wouldn't rip out the whole plant. Um, what about you, Arissa?
I grew up in the Central Valley, so I grew up here. Um, I can relate to what Alex was saying about how he feels like he didn't really experience oppression like firsthand, but he saw it happen to like other people in his
This meeting is
community.
being recorded.
But seeing it happen to did you hear
I don't know
that?
what that was. Yeah, I heard that. I don't know what that
Oh,
was.
okay.
You're good.
Yeah. So also seeing it happen to like people in your community. And then also like in the writing assignment, I talked about how like being biracial is also a big part of my identity and who I am, and just seeing how that's affected my family members and people in the community has impacted me in a lot of ways. I don't have many like family stories to share, so that's about it.
No worries.
Okay, I'll go next. So I was born in LA. I'm from LA originally. But we moved out here, I want to say 5 years ago. So I've been here in the Central Valley for quite a while now. But I'm a first generation student. I decided to go to college to break the cycle of like, because in a lot of Hispanic households, it's kind of just it's more of like a stigma that if you don't go to school, then you have to go to work. Or sometimes that even going to school is just a waste of time, you know. But
Yeah.
I wanted to break that stigma. So I really take pride in saying that I'm a first gen student, and not only that, but that I'm Hispanic, you know, a young man that's
Yeah.
cool. And also being able to speak two languages, being bilingual. In high school, I took, I don't know if anyone else here is bilingual, but I took the AP Spanish exam that like if you pass it, you get like a seal by literacy from the state. So
Yeah.
that's one thing that I'm proud
Oh
of.
yeah. Yeah.
I never did
That's
that,
very
but
inspiring.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not very fluent in like the Spanish that they teach, but very caught up in the slang because, like I said, I
Oh
go
yeah, because like
every year
original
to
Spanish,
Mexico, so
it's
Yeah.
like
it's
it's
like
really
there's two different Spanishes.
yeah.
It's
I'm more of the
it's
slang Spanish.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just hear like people like talking and like even when I took Spanish for Spanish speakers, I was like listening. I was like, "What?" I was like, "I go to Mexico every year. Never heard anyone talk like that."
Yeah, it's weird, huh? Because
Yeah,
you're
it's
just
like
so
two
used to
different.
speaking it
Yeah,
one way. But yeah, my family is 100% Mexican on both my mom and dad's side. They're both from Michoacan, and I've actually visited like 2 times now.
yeah. My parents are from there too. My
Mm.
my mom was born like her from in a town in the mountain, like a couple hours away from the capital. My dad was also born in Japan.
No, yeah, I love going there. Like, I know it's gonna sound weird, but anytime I go, I feel like a sort of connection to, you know, because that's like the place that your family's from, so you're gonna feel like some way. Or
Yeah.
you feel like it's a home away from home in a way.
It's
That's
also like very beautiful, like compared to like California, because for California, the only places that we have that are like really like good, a lot of like openness and like our national forests, you know,
no,
where
yeah,
like in Mexico, like you drive like 2 hours like in any direction, and all of a sudden there's like a giant gaps between towns, or a lot of places are like that. Obviously, some places in Mexico are like here as well, where it's just big city upon big city.
yeah. Mexico really does it does have a lot of like sightseeing places. It just feels nice to only speak Spanish over there because they tell you don't speak English. People are gonna
Yeah.
ask you other
Yeah.
stuff. If you
It's
And they
also
get all
funny when
mad.
people find out that I actually had the opposite with people finding out that I'm from over here. They want me to like show them proper English, and they're always like, "Oh, how do you say this and how do
oh
you say
yeah,
that?"
how all your younger cousins all asking you to
Yeah,
show them
and
words.
just people from like my mom's town. It's really funny because they're like, "Oh, how do you say this?" They're like, "How do you say that?"
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh yeah, I love
I have
learning.
I have to say I am the native speaker of all of you, Spanish native.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah, I came to America on a scholarship program. I think some you remember I showed my story. And obviously I am a second language learner. English is my second language, and I learned it at a older age. So that's why I have an accent and you guys don't. um, I'm
It's
being
fine. Everyone in my family also has an accent. Like my
yeah.
parents, my grandma. It's
Mm.
like for me, it's just kind of like I'm already accustomed to it, so I don't even like. It's weird to say that I don't really hear the accent. Like I know it's there, but it's just I don't really pay attention to it. Just
Yeah.
because I've been around it my
Yeah.
whole life, and
You get used
like
to it
aside
growing up
from
with
my
it.
cousins, yeah, aside from my cousins and everyone else speaks Spanish, and how they when they try and speak English, they have an accent, and so my whole life I've never known anything other than accents and people struggling with English.
Yeah, you might think they don't have an accent because my kids think I don't have an accent because they grew up listening to me.
Yeah.
now that they're grown and they have explored, and now that they are at the university, Mom, I think now I can hear you answer. Okay. At least I can still talk. They're pretty funny. They are your age. I have a 22 and a 20-year-old. So actually, he just turned 23. I'm sorry, I forgot. See, he's out at college and I miss his birthday. He's 23 now. So you can imagine I'm already 50 years old. And I've been living for half a century and I have a lot of experience to share with you, but I'm curious to hear all of you today on this beautiful day here on campus. So anyway.
Sorry, we've been interrupting you a lot, Francisco.
Oh, you're good.
Sorry, Francisco.
Oh, you guys are good.
Go ahead, Francisco.
I think I covered it all. Just mainly, yeah, I talked about going to Mexico. What part of Mexico are you from, Elida?
I am not from Mexico.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. Where are you from?
I am from Honduras.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Olancho, the region, a very small town called Culmi.
Okay.
So I was born in the mountains of Culmi near the Wampu River,
Uh-huh.
and yeah,
I'm
and
curious, isn't
the
there
natives of the Page community. It's a
Oh,
native tribe that lives there.
if like Mexican Spanish and Honduran Spanish, do you think it's different? Because I do have a Honduran friend and there's like slang words that she uses that I don't really understand. I'm like, what?
Very different. Very different. We speak with sort of like slangs and idioms, a lot of colloquialisms, and so are the Mexican people. But obviously, we can tell the difference. We do have different accents. In Mexico, they kind of sing the language.
Yeah,
Dale, ¿cómo estás? Oye,
very,
I was.
very outgoing language.
What I was meant until I came here. What does I was mean? Which means be careful. It's never
Yeah.
occurred to me.
Mhm.
No,
Sorry.
no
What do
worries.
Slang Spanish is really what most.
Also, I was just saying that being native speaker is relative because you know here we are influenced. My Spanish is influenced by all sorts of accents, Cubans. I hang out with a lot of people from the Caribbean, so my accent's very influenced by like Dominican Republic. Anyway, when I was a student here, I hang out with a bunch of students from all over Central America and the Caribbean, and they all spoke different accents, and they somehow they stick.
It's like the same thing with like the Portuguese, where it's like you hear people in Portuguese talking, for me anyways, and it's like I can, but I can't understand them. So I'll catch like every three words, and then I'll be like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but I understood this word, and then
Yeah, there's
I don't know
certain
what the
words.
rest of that is, but I understood this.
Yeah,
Some
it is
It's
a
just
little bit similar to Spanish. A
yeah,
little bit.
I think it's like interesting where it's like even though they're very different, there's still like some words that like each language is that we can all understand.
Anyway, so who was sharing? Who am I? Should we
I
go back to who am
think
I
the
question?
only two people is the two people left I think are Jose and you. So I don't know how you guys want to go about that. Which one of you guys wants to
Go
go
ahead.
first?
Yeah, when you can go next.
Do you
Me?
want to lead? I don't mind. I'll go if you want.
Go ahead, Jose.
Okay. I guess before I get into it, it's kind of crazy how like Francisco and Alex like how we all like relate almost. Like it's crazy how similar, like how Alex, you were saying how you go to Mexico each year to Michoacan, and I try to as well with my family. My dad's side of the family is from over there, and my mom's side's from Nuevo León, and we go there too también. And it's crazy. It's just crazy how similar like our backgrounds are. Like I find it kind of crazy. But for like who am I? I grew up here in Turlock. My whole life. I went to Pittman High School, which is here in town, so I've always been close to the university. Kind of hence the reason I went there. My childhood, it wasn't kind of how you guys said. I saw a lot of like challenges and battles facing like Hispanics and like groups of minorities. And like oftentimes I'd be with like my tios or tias, and like they're more how do I say it? they they were like born in Mexico and they came over here, so like English for them was so much harder. And as a little kid, when I'd be with them, I'd always be like translating and all that. So
Yeah,
like
me too. I remember
yeah,
when
so,
when I was born, my parents were like they would tell everyone in the family, speak only English to him, speak only English to him when I was like a baby because they struggled a lot with knowing English and already when like it's crazy to think about how me being born, even though I was gonna come to school here, I would have learned the language either way, and like how their first thought was, oh, I struggled with this language so much, I don't want my child to go through that. And I think it's like a lot of things that our parents faced like that, and our older people that we know face like that, where it's like we ourselves don't really look at that like a big problem. Like when I was a kid, I was never like, oh, English is so hard. I never went through that issue, but my
yeah, it's because
parents
like we're
already,
always around
yeah,
it. It's so we're so
yeah.
used to it.
So I just found that like really interesting how like instantly my parents were before I could even speak, oh, telling everyone speak English because they didn't want me to struggle with that. I just think that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I can relate to that a little bit too because growing up, my mom wanted me to learn Portuguese. She wanted me to learn the language, and she was teaching me like half Portuguese, half English. And my dad didn't like that, and he was like, "No, like just speak English around her," because he didn't want me to like struggle with the language either, and he didn't want me to start saying things that like weren't like proper, I guess, because he was worried about like how people would perceive me. So
Very interesting. Language just seems like it has to be our common denominator. You know, I struggle learning English. I don't know if you guys can, maybe if I'm able to share my screen. Let me show. But I became very dedicated student to learn the language as it meant um, for me to graduate or not from school. So I had to learn. I had no choice to learn the language.
Anytime when it
Yeah.
comes to learning a new language, it's definitely a challenge because at least for me, my first language was Spanish. So
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
all
mine too.
throughout like my up until sixth grade, I was considered an English learner. So I would be put in like these classes that were specifically meant for people who spoke Spanish first. And honestly, like maybe in the moment I didn't realize how I don't want to say degrading, but looking back at it now, it definitely seems a little bit wrong. Cause I remember I would be taken out of class, like they were having a pizza party one time and they just took me out of class to go into the English learner class because we had to take the test. Um every year you had to take it to see if you can test out of being an English learner. And
Yeah, I also had to take that test.
yeah, so I don't know. Now that I look back at it, it just definitely seems a little bit wrong to be separated just because you can't speak the language as well as the others can. But
Mm,
I don't know. You gotta just go through it. But yeah, I'm glad that I can speak both languages now fluently.
That's great. I was part of the adults who actually helped has a young children to acquire the English language. You know, native Spanish speakers that came, migrants that came from Mexico, Central America, the Caribbean. So I worked with the migrant program in Livermore. Um, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Bay Area, this Livermore, Dublin, Pleasanton area. So I work as an assistant teacher there, and a lot of children came not knowing the language, and um, eventually it's amazing how young children are able just to absorb the language so quickly. And I was kind of jealous because it took me forever to be able to speak fluently the language, but they are able to acquire so quickly. And I'm proud to be a migrant myself, but to see these children also thrive in both languages here, and it's already you know I say a success for me. I mean, a success story for these children. But also the sad part of it is that they don't have the connections to continue uh, fomenting the Spanish language. You guys are kind of lucky that are able to have families and connections here that will still foment the speaking of the language. And I know of even natives from my country that come here and they struggle learning because then they only not have the barrier of learning Spanish, but also they have the barrier of learning English. And and so they speak a native tongue in Honduras. That's the case of Garifunas, Page, Lencas, and I have friends from those tribes, and they have even a harder time. You guys consider yourself lucky. That's what I have to say.
Sorry, we interrupted you a lot, Jose.
Oh, no, you guys are totally fine. I mean, what more do I say, you know? I mean, I guess I do. One thing I really would want to say is like my parents helped me a ton as a kid. And even now, obviously, like I live with them free. Like I don't wanna assume, but I'm gonna just kind of do it anyways. I'm assuming most of you guys are first gens. Nah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
correct.
Yeah.
unlike most of you, I'm actually second gen. My parents went to stand in like the 90s. So they're similarly their stories, my parents' stories very much resonate with your guys's. And they've told me like their stories, you know, as a kid, like as cuentos, you know? So it like even though I didn't really experience such a like maybe a potential struggle as a first gen, um like if like I don't understand the struggle as a first generation. Through my parents' eyes, I feel like I do, and like it really helps me resonate with like all you guys, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much, you know, about me.
Okay.
Lila, you can take the floor.
Oh my God, I already talked too much. I already said a lot. Well, first of all, I am consider myself mestizo, a descendant of colonized peoples of Honduras, Central America, an immigrant since 1995, and a citizen, obviously a citizen of the world. I have also paved the way for others in my family to migrate to Europe and the United States. Um, as Honduran, I continue to experience the struggle of violence in my country. I travel there a lot because I have no choice. I am the exception. I am the only one in my family who actually went to school here and first acquired papers. So I was able to travel back and forth and help with whatever struggles they were having there, whether it is um, violence related deaths. I lost two brothers to violent crimes, and then recently, not long ago, I lost another brother. Uh, he struggled with alcoholism, and he just went into a bar, and a stranger he refused to give up his weapon, and a stranger just shot him out of fear. So there's a lot of violence, and I have to deal with this constant fear that sooner or later they'll give me bad news. But I have just learned to cope as as you know as well as I can here. I do not have any family other than a host family that adopted me when I came here as a student in 1995. And my brothers came here as immigrants, but they just came illegally. They couldn't get papers like me. I got a scholarship, and that's how I end up migrating here originally. But then I went back to Honduras with the dream that I wanted to not be fearful and just contribute to the education. I wanted to educate, be part of the changes that were going on in the country, opening bilingual schools, or helping with even my own family learn the language because they all wanted to migrate here. Obviously, the main reason that I came here is for opportunity. So, coming from a very poor family, education is the only way out of poverty, and that is the case in a lot of my friends and families from Honduras. So I don't know if you guys can see my screen. I'll see if I can share it. If I can. Let's see. I want to show you just a few pictures.
Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna be able to see them. It's
Okay.
not showing up on our thing. It should be fine though, since the audio record. It's only gonna be the audio.
Okay. So I just wanted to share a few pictures of the family where I'm from, and it's just a few pictures of for you to have an idea how beautiful Honduras is. It's a beautiful country. It's full of vegetation, and we hold different historic sites. We have obviously we are descendants of the Mayans. It was a very sophisticated civilization, as some of you may know, that existed in pre-colonial times. About more than 10 centuries ago, and we are descendants of that. That civilization. In some way, we have weaved and with other tribes and um, colonies from Spain, settlers that, moved in the area. And so I am a mixed mestizo. But like I said before, I think what else? I grew up basically without television, without electricity, without running water. We all suffer from infested waters, diarrheas, constant diarrheas from drinking, amoeba infested water. And most of us, had stomach worms or lombrices, we call them, growing up. But despite all those challenges and those struggles, we were able to grow up and grow healthy enough to be able to be, healthy children and then have a mixed childhood, happiness, happy children, and but at the same time, a lot of struggles my parents had to go through to raise 11 of us.
All right, I guess we'll go to part two. We're gonna have to be a little bit faster than we were on part one because we do only have 30 minutes left. And we do have an extra person than everyone else in the group, so we don't want to make it too long. So I guess we'll try and make part two and part three a little bit faster than our part one. I know we all got really hit intrigued by each other's stories and how we connected with each other. So I guess maybe um, we won't try to do that as much on part two, just so we can get uh, done within the time frame that we have. So I guess I'll start off with the three topics that I really connected with, were the land acknowledgement topic when we talked about how it's important to acknowledge not only the land, but the people that were there before us. And I think they're important because it shows us to respect the land that it's currently, even though we might be on it, it's not ours. It was the people's, the indigenous peoples that were there first, and it's very important to acknowledge that they came before us and that we should always keep them in mind because they are what technically forged us, and because of them, we are here. It is their land. And for the second topic that I really connected with was the Black Power movement because the Black Power movement was a big push towards being proud of what you are and what you came for, where you came from. That um, it shouldn't be a bad thing that you can express yourself. That everyone should be able to express themselves in a way that they feel comfortable and that um, they just the push they did for not only equality for them but for everyone. Like that's just like amazing to see how that many people came together and like saw that not only they were struggling, but other people were, and that they were struggling for no reason because they were supposed to fit in and be molds of, even though we're not, we're all different people. That goes into the third topic that I found interesting, the Third World Liberation Front. It's kind of similar to the Black Power movement, except it's more like educational focused, where the Black Power movement was for like everything. They wanted equality for everything, and that you should be proud of yourself. The Third World Liberation Front was like a similar idea of, you know, be proud of yourself, but it was also a greater push for school and for teaching the students where they came from and that they should be proud of where they came from, but not only just where they came from, but where other people came from. And I think that's really important because I don't think our differences make us different and isolated from each other. I think they unite us because we can't relate to each other, you know, because we have to ask each other, "Oh, how was this for you?" And because we're so different, it kind of forces us to come together and talk and acknowledge our differences. That was it for me. I know I went on pretty long right there.
Yeah. I could just sum up the history of ethnic studies, and I thought this was important as it showed and put together the struggles faced from certain groups and their fights in order to be treated equally and feel like they had a place in this world. And my identity is related to this because I believe that it was important for this history to be taught straightforward without trying to hide any part of it. And I think that learning everything about ethnic studies and how it came to be um, is a great way for me to be aware of the struggles and in order to help others out that are struggling through inequality. And I guess I could just say that one so more people have time to speak about other ones.
Okay, I'll try to be short on time too. I also talked about land acknowledgements, and I thought that was really important because I feel like with the indigenous community, they're pretty underrepresented. Like, there's like a small percentage of indigenous people here, and I feel like it's rare that I really get to meet indigenous people and hear from their perspective. So that was something that I found really interesting, and also learning about the Red Power movement because, like I said, I feel like there's not a lot of representation about them and their struggle. And even if there is, a lot of people mention like certain tribes, but that doesn't really touch on the amount of tribes that are out there, you know? And then the other two that I chose were Asian Power and the Third World Liberation Front. So you guys didn't see the Asian Power presentation because we haven't presented yet, but I really liked learning about it because what I found interesting about both the Asian Power and the Third World Liberation Front was how like minority students were trying to come together, and they were all relating on struggles. Even though they weren't the same ethnicity or the same race, they were relating on the fact that they were experiencing these social injustices and discrimination, and they kind of bonded over that. So that was what I liked to learn about. So yeah.
Okay, I'll just sum up mine too, so we have more time. The one that really stuck out to me was Asian Power. That's the one that me and Marissa haven't presented yet. But yeah, like she said, the thing that stuck out to me was how she said even though they weren't the same race or ethnicity, they still came together and protested for what they thought was right. And they definitely did achieve what they wanted to achieve. It took time, but it just goes to show that if you protest for what you believe is right, with enough time and enough people and enough effort put into the movement, you can definitely accomplish whatever it is that you wanted to accomplish. Um, and yeah, that's all I'll say about mine. About so whoever's next, I think Elida can go next.
Or I'll go next first. Sorry. Or do you want to
That's
go,
fine.
Alida? I don't mind.
No, you go ahead, Jose.
Yeah, mine's. I'll make it quick as well. Honestly, like most of you guys, like my top three were like uh the World Liberation Front movement and the land acknowledgement for like many of the same reasons. Um, just like the impacts they had. But the one that was different I have is Chicano and Chicana Power. I feel like that one really just resonates with me because like as a kid, my parents they identify as Chicanos like too, and they would always like they tell me like as kids, like as a little kid, they'd be like oh like you're our little Chicano, and like I went to a lot of like movements as well, like as a little kid, and yeah, like the Chicano movement just I like learned about it a lot growing up, so it does have like a personal impact on me as well, and that's really it for my three.
I relate to that too, even though I am not Chicana. I like the Chicano power because I think it's when I first came here to America, then I learned about Cesar Chavez and how he ignited the Bracero program, um, or built on the Bracero program, which the injustices that they suffer, like they were brought here to work and they basically were used, and when there was no more use for them, they got deported to Mexico. But a lot of them had already families here, built up a community here, and it was just so unfair. And then um, but I learned about that when I first came here, about through the struggles the agricultural the farmers, the small farmers had, um, when they basically got overtaken by big corporations, and how they just struggled to survive. And it's the case of not just California, this area, but it is the case of a lot of farmers in throughout the United States. And I think the Chicanos were a lot of those Chicanos were um, part of those um, programs in their families. They saw the injustices that happened to them and to their relatives, and they united, they organized, and they protested, and you know they demanded minimum raise the minimum wage, and even I think from that moment came actually the fact that they're working in the fields and they needed break. The the owners of those fields, they didn't even give them breaks for water. So it was a lot of good came out of those movements, and Cesar Chavez and other activists that I came um, to learn about. They contributed so much for what you guys and me are able to enjoy now, which is 15 minutes after 2 hours of work, or actually get paid for extra time after 8 hours of labor, all those little things that have contributed to the labor force. The Chicano movement had a lot to do with that. So that was one of the Chicano power, and also Black Power. You know how civil rights movement became you know, the law of the land. You know, being able to vote, being able to have programs in schools that that relate to the students, and just being able to go to schools. There were no just white schools, having programs, you know, for the Black community. And the Black Power movement, you know, that really shaped the ethnic studies program. Actually was born from that moment, as we all know, well, related to the World Liberation Front also. You know, that's another program that another movement that you know I learned from in this class. So those are the three that I can share.
Yeah,
Sorry.
okay, then I'll go next for the part three then. For the first part where it says my motivation for taking this class, my motivation was uh, to truly understand how important it is to know not only the land and the culture of my people, but not only my people, but everyone else's as well. Like understanding how the different cultures are meshed into one another, and how, especially here in America, with a lot of different, there's a lot of different cultures and races and ethnicities, and I think it's important for to look at all of them to see uh, just how far we've come and how awesome the people were in the past, and how together it can make us if we look at everyone. No, I can't explain it. Um, and then that's pretty much what I took, what I what I wanted to take this class for. And in terms of bringing like the history, I think I bring the history of my parents and my grandparents and the experiences of my own, like while traveling and just seeing people around me struggle. Because as a kid, I never really, when we're kids, we don't really pay attention to how bad we're struggling or being oppressed we are. We don't really see that until we're forced to. And that's what happened with me. It's kind of like I chose not to see it until I was older, and I realized that to not, it's not okay to pretend like it's not there. We have to acknowledge that it's there so that way we can change it. That's what I put.
Yeah, I agree with that last part, how we don't really pay much attention to the struggles until we're older, and well, we realize we have like um, yeah, we realize more of the struggles that our parents went through. And what motivated me to take this class was to gain a better understanding of my culture and how it came to be, and the challenges that our ancestors faced, so that I could continue that legacy. And I also bring my family's histories and experiences, as well as my own and struggles that my family faced or I have faced.
To piggyback off of what you guys are talking about, regarding like struggle, I definitely agree. I feel like when we're younger, we're kind of shielded from that. Like I know I was definitely shielded from it from my parents. I never really thought about it. I didn't really think twice. I just knew it was something like from the past. You just think of it as like, okay, this is in history, but you don't really think of it in terms of like reality happening today. I know like a lot changed for me when the whole like when Black Lives Matter was like at its height, and there was like all these videos, and there was like the one of George Floyd. That was really hard. That was a hard time because it was kind of like when it really fully hit me that this is still a reality that like we're experiencing. And I just started thinking like in terms of like that could be my dad or that could be my aunt. So it was just really scary, and it is still scary because it's still reality, you know? And we live our daily lives, but still like in the back of our mind that's there.
No, yeah, that's I remember when all that was happening too. It was some really heavy stuff. But to in terms on why I took this class, apart from it being a requirement, because I believe there's other options that fit the GE for this class, but this one just seemed really interesting, like regarding because I did want to learn more about ethnic studies, I guess, which would be like the natives and like who the land actually belongs to, and just get to get a better understanding on like what I can do to respect the land and respect the people whom the land belongs to. And so far, I've had a pretty good time um learning all these new things about indigenous people and like the mural that's on campus. I remember when we had to like dissect the meaning behind that. That was pretty interesting too. So it's definitely an interesting class, and I really so far I have really enjoyed taking it. Yeah.
Me, mm, me too. Are you done, Francisco? Sorry, I didn't mean to
Oh
interrupt.
yeah, you're good. I'm done.
Thank you for sharing, all of you. Um, I took this class because I want to learn more about me, like where I'm, you know. And I thought, "Oh, this class must has to touch on ethnicity and also identity. Like I want to find the people that I can relate to, you know." And I didn't know that this school has so many Spanish speaking students. That's the I just kind of stumbled upon this school because my work and my as a caregiver, I had to move in here to this town to to care for my elder mom, host mother, and I just decided to go to school here, and I didn't realize how many kids and minorities are going to this school, and I feel lucky that I have found a lot of Spanish speaking um, families or students that I can relate to, and I have found good connections and even formed some friendships that I was not expecting. So, and this class kind of opened my eyes into understanding that this is native land, and the fact that this the acknowledgement, uh, just to show respect uh, for the natives of these lands, and you know, and I also enjoyed the mural. The meaning of the mural. The students were actually have a struggle here in this school, and in order for having all these programs in place here, it's actually quite remarkable. And thank you, everyone, for sharing everything that you're comfortable sharing. I know we have a lot more to say, but I don't know if we already ran out of time.
I think we got time for Jose, and then
Yeah, I think just a little more left. But no, yeah, like I mean, I guess the main thing that motivated me to take the class was like wanting to learn more about like my roots and my ethnic background. And I feel like I definitely did. Like with this one, we had first got the assignment and looking at like the first the pair of questions, it was like oh like I might actually have to really like tap into my ancestry. And it's funny because like I asked my mom like about her ancestry background, and she helped me make like a family tree. So I learned about like my great grandparents and all that. And it's crazy to see how like far back it goes. And like same thing, like my grandma's like I'll often go with them on the weekends and spend time with them, and I'll ask them just about like their childhood, how it was growing up, and it really is like inspirational, and it's eye-opening as well. I feel like because like how you guys were saying, there's so many struggles that you don't even see as a kid. And when you look at it in like the hindsight of things, like looking at the struggles and sacrifices that like your guys' parents made or your grandparents made, like for you to be here, you don't even realize how much it was. So I feel like taking this class really helps me like tap in with my background and really understanding like who I am as a person and who I am ethnically.
Yeah, I agree with you with like how it's hard to kind of understand how much your parents struggle because I think it's hard for like just human beings to kind of think about other people's problems like off the bat because I mean instinctively, we want to take care of ourselves and make sure we're okay,
Yeah.
but we're not thinking about how hard our parents or the people that are supporting us had to struggle in order to put us in a position where we're able to succeed and fulfill our dreams that we wanted to, whereas maybe our parents had similar dreams to us, but because of the situation they were in, they weren't able to fulfill them. And them just knowing that able to fulfill our dreams, it's almost in a way like we're honoring their sacrifices and I can't really explain it. I'm not very good at explaining it good, but I
No,
just
but
That's
I like,
think
yeah, I
yeah,
totally get it.
like it's important to understand the struggles
mhm.
that everyone took to get us here.
It's important to you for us to acknowledge the 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 shoulders we are stepping on, and always we have to, who supported us. Don't forget our roots. Don't forget who suffered for us, who sacrificed for us. And every day I thank not just God, but I thank God for being the exception of the rule. Like I did not have to struggle as much because my parents did that for me. And because of the sacrifice that my parents did, sending me through school, even I had to walk 2 hours for to my first kindergarten class. Um, I, that sacrifice has paid the way for me to be here. And we all have to stop and think about, you know, who is who am I in relationship all uh, to all that is happening around me, and why am I here? And it's for us to continue the paving the way for those who come behind us and set an example. And for me, uh, being able to participate in this class has kind of opened my eyes and seeing the 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 struggles that the Spanish community still have in this town, and not just Spanish community, but also the Black community and you know other minority groups that that we could relate to and be part of their struggle. Because when we kind of identify with one another and um, we see their struggle as our own, we can unite in that and be part of a bigger movement. And I think this class kind of gearing us towards that, and being an active participant here at school, joined clubs, as part that you guys try to find a way to connect to one another, and not just through the language but through the culture, through music, through all sorts of things that are going on in this school. I wish I had the time for it now, but I'm probably 30 years too old. No, but never too old to learn. So I'm learning a lot from you, believe it or not. So that's that's my share, and I'm done. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I completely agree with you in everything you were saying there. Does anyone else have anything else to share? If not, then
I think to add on to what you guys were talking about, like reflecting on the past and acknowledging like what our parents and grandparents have sacrificed for us, and not just our family, but like the people who protested and activists who made things possible. We can just take that and then have gratitude, you know, and be grateful for the sacrifices that they've made. And through that acknowledgement, just showing gratitude, definitely.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Anyone
Yeah.
else want to share anything? Okay, I think that concludes the podcast. I just want to say thank you to everyone that participated. It was really awesome to have you guys participate.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And thank you.